Good morning. I think I have a crying child here. Faith, I'm in the middle of my show. Go to bed. Okay. She's worried about her ghost sister. So, yeah, my daughter has a sister who is her shadow, who keeps her up at night and wants to play. So, yeah, it's a thing. So, guys, tonight, thanks for showing up. We got Frank the Tank and Mesopods and more here already. I'm proud of myself for showing up on time to my own show this week. It's a good thing. Wally Kern and, of course, the ever-present Nanette will be here as well. So they are going to talk with us about common myths in the hobbies that we share. So some that we don't share. So I've got a bunch in the hopper. Wally's got some. We haven't discussed them yet, so I think we're going to do a trade-off. Honestly, we haven't discussed really how to do this episode at all. So what I'm suggesting, and we'll see if Wally agrees, is to flip back and forth. So, and Moon's here. We got the classics. Holy moly. All right, well, let's bring Wally in. Without further ado, Wally and Nanette, the dynamic duo.
Hey,
welcome to the show.
Hey.
Oh, we lost
Oh,
Nanette.
we lost Nanette. Oh, there you go. Good job.
Let's put it that way. Can I do it this way? Let's do that. There we go.
I don't know if I like that term.
I like us side by side. I think that looks better.
This one?
There you go. You think so?
I don't see it that well, but that's fine. I like it.
You look good.
I have a chili cheese coney Slim Jim from Sonic, apparently. Yeah, I shouldn't be allowed in gas stations. So we're gonna.
If you eat
try
that,
it.
you won't be allowed in many places.
I might have to go take care of things in a little bit. So let's take a look. It's got a nose to it. It definitely smells like a Slim Jim, and a hot dog had a horrifying baby. Let's snap into it.
Why?
I can actually smell it right here from like 100 miles away.
Why?
All the way to
Smell
Wisconsin.
away. Smell away.
It tastes like a Slim Jim. Oh, wait, there's a little chili. Like a Slim Jim with chili seasoning. That's all it is.
You should try the cheese and pickle.
It's not very special. I'll go get some Cheese Whiz and dip it in Cheese Whiz.
Oh,
Lots.
That
lots
sounds
of
better.
Cheese Whiz. Yeah. So I was going to bring something now that your mouth is full and you're eating, but I'm kind of restricted on things that I can eat right now. Seriously. So Sunday, I'm going to tell this story real quick.
Make it sound
It's
like
not your fault. It's not your fault. So
Let me
Sunday,
get another bite of this delectable.
yeah,
Go ahead.
please. So Sunday I prepared a little bowl of yogurt. And I always have granola, a little sprinkle of granola in there. Put the granola in. So it looked like a different bag. Well, I'll give this a try. Put it in, and we're sitting up here in the office, Nanette and Crystal and myself. And I think Jordan wasn't up here.
No, not yet.
And I took a big bite, and I'm eating it away. Within 2 minutes,
Not even.
not even 2 minutes, I looked at Nanette and said, "My mouth is burning. I mean,
Itching.
seriously,
Itching.
burning, itching, burning." And then I said, I feel like my throat is swelling up here.
Oh, God.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So it only got worse. We were contemplating going to the doctor, and it was real close. Turns out, Nanette looked at the bag, and it has flaxseed in it, and I am highly allergic to flaxseed. So Pangea has flaxseed, so I never ever. So I'll Pangea across the Gecko diet. So I'll pour it, I'll mix it, and everything. I wash my hands before, I wash my hands afterwards. I don't get close to flaxseed. We do flaxseed with a couple of recipes that we do. Nanette doesn't allow me anywhere close to the flaxseed. So I had a big bite of this granola with flaxseed in it. It was bad.
It was flax seeds. It was ground into the granola. I had no clue it was in there.
That is wild.
It was scary.
It was a little
Now,
scary.
mind you, he was told 5 years ago, he had this allergy when he bit into a Panera bread sandwich and had the same reaction. And we found out it was flaxseed later. And he was told to have an EpiPen on hand. But of course, I don't need that. So I'm not going to get it from the pharmacy. Why would I do that?
Wally's old school.
Yeah, well, I'm going to the doctor with him the next time and we're getting one. Yeah,
no EpiPen, no therapy. I don't know what else. No water filter. I'm gonna guess no water filter.
No.
Right? Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. I just got one because our water is awful. After I had Dustin on talking about your water is crap, mine
Oh,
is.
we do have a water filter in the refrigerator. I've got the water filtered in that
Yeah,
jug.
I drink it out of the tap. I put my head under
No,
it and I
you
just drink it
don't.
out of the tap.
I did
You
that
have
today.
a really nice water filter that somebody sent you.
Yes.
Was it the Brita? Was it like the pitcher?
It's like a Brita, but I don't know what the
Okay.
brand
It's
name
really
is.
nice.
It's different, but it's a very nice
It's really
one.
nice.
It was a
When
gift.
I don't drink straight from the faucet, I'll use that.
Straight from the faucet. You got it. I used to do that in my drinking days. Yeah, that was it. Showering itself in butter. I'm so lost. It's probably Frank talking about freaking waffles again. I'm gonna guess it's Frank waffle chat. Yeah.
No
need to get stitches. Yeah, it's super glue. If you worked in a kitchen, you know. It's super glue or duct tape and paper towels. That's it. That's all you need.
Flax seeds in her oatmeal. Oh, you should watch that. She just said flax seeds in her oatmeal.
Ooh.
We got to start watching.
It's not
those
good.
Better.
So that pretty much Sunday was. Oops, I just lost you. Sunday was a really bad thing, but then I was all down all day Monday. Didn't do a thing, and then today it took me a while to really get going. So it was pretty bad.
Wow, so no flaxseed today. All right. Well, I don't have any in the studio right now, so you should be good.
I should be good. Okay.
I'm a little mad on a side note that my lighting today is better than it's been in a year. And
Looks
this
great.
is just the lights from my basement. So all the lights that I bought that make it look worse than my ceiling lights is frustrating. I'll have to dial it in. But anyway, myths. We're going to talk about myths. We're going to do another episode about myths, but it's going to be dragons and stuff. It's not going to be the myth that we're talking about here.
I've got one for you. Can I start it off? Do you mind?
Fire it off. Are you okay with flip-flopping?
And I've got a ton of notes here on this subject, but today, since it's so relative and so current, so this tank back here with the fan kind of rotating that you can see rotating there.
I was wondering about that. I was going to ask, because that little flap is.
Yeah, that's our ceiling fan. So it's like 186 degrees in this room right now. So that drops it from the 200 range. So I got my step stool out because we had a couple of pieces of wood to put in that tank. And I don't know if you can see it, but there's some wood in there. So I opened it up. And yeah, it's kind of hard. Maybe I'll take the camera off and run it over there later.
That's fine.
So step stool, and I jumped up on the step stool, and I'm putting the wood in, and sure enough, biff. So there's a biff for you. Biff. I've got another biff for you. We're talking biffs, right? So here's another biff.
Apparently.
Hello, McFly. It's time for biffs, McFly. I got you.
We're talking biffs, right?
Biff Tannen.
Yeah. Keep going.
So Nanette biffed yesterday. We were feeding.
What did I do? Oh.
We were feeding different rooms, and Nanette had the big, how big is that? 6 3/4 inch deli cup, and it was filled with dubias, and she was going around feeding dubias in our leopard room. Baby dubias, and all of a sudden I heard, "Oh no."
That's not what you heard.
No, it's something like that. So Nanette is in there. What's wrong? Nothing. So I walked around the door and I looked through the window, and here's dubias all over the floor. All over the floor. Now, luckily it's a cement floor, so I ran and got the broom and I got the dustpan and could dust them up into the dustpan, sweep them up into the dustpan, and we put them into another container.
It was bad.
But it was kind of bad. There were dubias all over the place. So that's a biff.
Nice.
Wait, are we talking biffs or myths?
Myths. We're talking myths, but I appreciate it.
We're talking myths?
Hello, McFly.
I've got nothing.
Hello.
I've got a bunch of biffs, but I have nothing on myths.
Oh, biff notes. Okay. Yeah, your floor is just bioactive, Jedi Monkey says.
So we released all the reptiles onto the floor
just to eat,
and they ate off of the floor, so that's okay.
Do you still have the make like a tree and get out of here? Nice. Do you still have that gecko that's just loose down there that just hangs out?
No.
We eventually caught once it got bigger, a little bit bigger. We eventually caught it and put it back in the tank. It was out one day, and it was like, okay, time to go back in.
I just thought it was going
We
to be
were done
a
playing that
lifetime
game.
Yeah.
There's a biff about flaxseed. Oh, Moon's
That
shot
was a
fire.
biff.
That was a big biff.
That was a biff. We got a couple folks in here. We got Aunt Sandy, Green Jedi Monkey. We got the usual Yahoos. Who else did I see? Fishy Plumber showed up. Nanette's here. Finally, she never watches my show.
Never.
She's on it more often than I have it.
I see
So
Steve-O.
myths. Do you have a myth, Wally?
I have a myth. You want me to go first?
I
will go
I can go
first.
first, but I thought you were. I was going to take the big one.
You go ahead. If you've got the big one, I'll go second.
This is the biggest one, I think, that pervades our hobby, our hobbies. And speaking of your fish tank, fish only grow to the size of the tank that they're in.
You took one of mine.
Yeah, I'm sure I did. This is like the biggest one. It's like low hanging fruit. So I thought I'd get it out of the way. The mealworm myth. We'll have to get to that later. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I want to know about the mealworm myth.
They're throwing in weird myths now. Frank, let's elucidate. I don't know if that's for real or not. If you're just being frank, you can make waffles out of mealworms.
What do you think about that? Do fish only grow a certain size according to their fish tank, their enclosure?
There is a little bit of fact to it. So there is a little bit of fact to it, and I think there's two things that come to mind. So goldfish produce a hormone, right? It's a hormone, I think, that limits the growth of other fish. So when they're producing it and it's in that enclosed space and it's even just them, they'll limit their own growth or the tank mates. So it's in that enclosed space, it concentrates, but at the same time, it shortens their lifespan. So like they die about the time they would have hit that size. But you see fish all the time, like the people with the massive arowanas and Oscars that grew way too big for their tank. So they're growing too big for their tank. So yeah, definitely. I think it's 90% myth.
I would say the same exact thing. I mean, there's a certain point where, let's say you have a 55-gallon tank. 55 is a good example because it's a very common tank. And let's say you have 2 or 3 Oscars in there. They're going to keep growing up to a certain size. If you don't change the water, it's certainly going to slow down their growth. If you have 20 Oscars in there, your point is taken exactly true in that, you know, some of them are going to grow a little bit larger than the others. But again, the more water changes you do to that tank, the less that's going to be a factor. And if you could just constantly do water changes, we used to keep fish in big tanks. We used to keep fish in small tanks. So we used to raise a lot of Lake Malawi, Lake Victoria fish. And we put 20 or 30 fish in a 50-gallon. But I was doing water changes like every other day to get them up to size, just to make sure that they got up to size the right way. So we were throwing in bunches of food and constantly doing water changes just to pump their growth up and make sure that they were not, you know, inhibited down because of the other animals. But yeah, I think you're right. It's a myth, but there's other factors in there, and it's not as big of a myth as you know, it's, I guess, said in the hobby. Now, how about reptiles? Does the same thing hold true with reptiles? So let's say I have a monitor that gets to be, you know, 2 feet long. If I put it in a 10-gallon tank, is that going to keep it at 6 to 8 inches?
In my experience, no. But I haven't kept monitors, but I had a rescued iguana, and I had to get rid of him pretty quick because I was in no way prepared to have an iguana and thought I would be able to. And to be honest, I didn't even know they got that big. If I put Josh in a wooden box, he will not grow any taller. That's true now, Moon. That's true now. I think I would have busted out like the Hulk if you put me in there as a teenager. And then Mesopods asked if non-goldfish would exhibit that hormone. And yes, I haven't done the research, but I remember hearing that they produce that limiting hormone, the growth limiting hormone.
Absolutely. Now,
okay.
I don't know if I've ever heard, like, I hate to bring it up here, but maybe a pet store say something like that, where, this 20-gallon long will be fine for your iguana, or monitor or whatever. This 10-gallon will be fine for your bearded dragon. It'll never grow big. It'll keep it small. I don't know if I've ever heard a pet store say something like that. I don't know if I've ever heard that at a reptile show. If somebody's selling that point, oh, just buy a 10-gallon and your bearded dragon will never grow out of it. Shame on them. I mean, that's horrible. That's just horrible.
I would probably have a bearded dragon if it only grew to the size of its tank. I think that's abuse. That's definitely what just happened. Am I getting a call or something? What just happened? My phone is chiming at me. I don't know what that is. Let me close my other windows. That's definitely abuse, in my opinion, to keep them in that. Like, there's a fine line. There are people that are insane and want a bearded dragon to have, like, your basement as an enclosure because it would have that territory in the wild. And to me, that's lunacy. Like, that, I get it. It would be ideal. It would be great to walk in your basement and have. Did I freeze?
A little bit. We can still hear you, though.
Wally's frozen.
I'm frozen? I'm not frozen.
Not on our side.
Wally's still frozen, unless they're holding still and mess with me. Am I good? Do I need to reboot?
We're fine.
We're fine.
So weird. Okay, you're back. Where did I lose you?
We didn't lose you.
You were talking about a reptile running loose in your house and getting to be 6 feet long.
No, I didn't mean for it to get 6 feet long, but like
I make you think about
my
this all the
God.
time.
You are so
Yeah.
rotten.
I'm like, wait, did I? Did I? I have no memory and have a lot of sunburn right now. Oh, I was freezy. Okay. I think that's awesome, but crazy at the same time. Like, you're frozen again, or I'm frozen. So
I think you're good.
There's those people that are crazy, and then there's the people that are realists. Like a 40 breeder for a beardy is probably fine, but you'll have people that say no smaller than a 75, which would be awesome. It would be awesome if you have the space and the capacity for it. But again, I think that's another situation. That's another story. Please don't hate on me. Please don't dislike the video because I said a 40 breeder for a beardy.
No, and there's going to be a couple of points that I'm going to bring up later. Let's say somebody does have a bearded dragon in a 40. There's a big difference in somebody that's keeping a bearded dragon in a 40 and maintaining it every single day and cleaning it and feeding it and changing the water, and somebody that has it in a 100-gallon and never cleans it and feeds it once a week. And so there's factors going on here that you have to consider. It's not, both situations aren't exactly the same. They potentially could be very, very different.
I hear you. And there's other ways you can monkey around with that. Like you could give them different levels in a 40 where they're not just on a flat plane. You're expanding their square footage basically. But yeah, I'm not a super reptile guy, but I know that my leopard gecko that I had for a while quickly outgrew his 10-gallon. The person who sold him to me was like, he'll be fine in a 10. And it got to the point where he's basically as long as the tank was wide. And it seemed to me like that was just like he was fine, but like you said, I was taking care of him, I was feeding him, cleaning up after him, all that. But it just seemed I want to put him in a 20 long. So and that was great for him because he had the like levels as well. I had an insert that had tunnels in it that he could go in. So he had like an underground area. But anyway, I think they definitely outgrow. They grow to the size that you're going to feed them. So if you're feeding them on the right schedule and the right stuff, they're going to grow to their max size. So, and if you're overfeeding them, like some of the people that are on YouTube that overfeed snakes, you'll see a giant tire-sized snake, which is kind of gross.
Yes.
Not naming names, but
sometimes worse than maybe a little underfeeding.
Yeah. I think a little underfeeding is a little bit better, especially if you want a good feeding response, I guess. But yeah, it's definitely less of a health issue to feed them a little bit less than to feed them too much.
Exactly.
Did we cover that? Did we cover the reptiles? I think you're up. We covered size of the tank.
Okay. Well, let me throw out the big one. and I'm going to state it like you'll see it often on social media. Never keep your leopard gecko over sand or dirt or anything like that because it will get impacted. So I get asked this a lot. Did I say a lot? I get asked this at least once a week. Hey, is it okay to keep my leopard gecko over sand? So our standard answer is it's better that you don't. It's better that you don't. Well, what can I keep it over? Hard packed dirt is absolutely the best thing that you can do because that's more what they're used to in nature. Sand, though, there's a lot of things that will factor in a leopard gecko getting impacted by sand. Number one, you don't have just like deer, and you know this, Josh, in our area, we have a lot of deer. You put a salt lick out and you'll have 100 deer in your backyard tomorrow morning. They crave minerals, and leopard geckos crave minerals as well. So what we'll do with our leopard geckos is, with a lot of animals, is we'll put a little dish with calcium with D3 in there so they can take their feeder insects, and those feeder insects are covered with the calcium with D3. So they're getting their minerals, vitamins and minerals, right out of that dish. So they don't have the desire to go through their enclosure and lick a lot of the substrate in other areas. So they're way less likely to get impacted if you had them over sand. I'm not saying that sand is okay. What I'm saying is that there's, again, other factors in the works here where not having calcium and vitamins in there will cause them to start licking, and they will lick sand and they will eventually get impacted because sometimes they can't pass that sand that well. So again, the best thing that you could do with a leopard gecko, and this is kind of controversial too, is get a solid packing dirt, pack it down, and they'll be fine over that dirt. But absolutely keep some kind of a dish with the vitamins and calcium in there.
That makes sense. I never kept mine on a substrate, really. It was like anyway, it was a whole thing. What is this? I'm looking into my crested gecko enclosures. I have a lot of fruit flies. Can I put a small spider in to hunt them down? I would think that the cresty would eat the spider, unless it was like really like even a jumper, right? It would go after the jumper at some point.
Yeah. There's got to be a root problem there somewhere. It might be that you have to start changing out your diet a little bit quicker.
Yep.
I've had it. Feed smaller amounts of diet, but maybe feed more often.
Yeah, feed it at night, maybe take it out in the morning and repeat.
Yep.
I would do that. I was wondering, is that a myth? I don't know if that's did someone do that or suggest that? I think you just be out a spider. It's a what?
That's a biff.
That's a biff. You're gonna get hit in the head with that spider. Are you sure they aren't fungus gnats? I had a fungus gnat explosion the other day. So Grumpy Little Moose. I don't know who that is. Welcome to the show, Grumpy. Is there a myth on fungus gnats? I don't think fungus gnats are bad for your setup. They're just bad for you. People get freaked out about them, and I don't know that there's a myth about it, but I think the myth is really don't worry about it. Like
let's make one up.
Go away.
Let's make up a myth right now. Let's make up a myth. Okay, the myth is going to be if you have fungus gnats, your isopod enclosures are not set up the right way and they're crashing, and you're going to have problems with your isopods.
Yep. You cannot get fungus gnats if you just put your isopods on sand. While we're talking about sand, just keep them.
But they will get impacted. The isopods will get impacted.
And die. He'll definitely die, probably shortly. Don't put your isopods on sand, guys. If you're new and you're watching this and you're thinking about isopods, don't put them on sand. Just sand. You put them on a sand cocoa fiber mix. No, don't do that either. Don't do that.
Have the viewers heard the whole thing about the leopard geckos and sand and causing impaction? Is that something that
I think
people
so.
are aware of?
That's a lot of reptiles have that thing. Frank is saying if you keep them well hydrated and keep your temps up, that'll basically that'll help knock that out, so you can keep them on the sand. I think you're right. I think I would keep them on a harder, compacted substrate. But I do notice that you keep it's not the frog-eyed geckos we were talking about, but you keep those knobtails on sand.
I keep a lot of animals on sand. I keep all, don't want to get into the scientific names, but all of my African geckos are kept over sand. All of my Saudi Arabia, viper geckos, and the first Melii they're kept over a sand dirt mix, and all of my knobtails are kept over sand. I never have a problem whatsoever with them. And you'll actually see knobtails and other geckos like that, for whatever reason, don't crave the minerals and do the same thing that leopard geckos do. Leopard geckos intentionally go out and they'll start licking things to get their vitamins and minerals. Most other geckos don't do that. I've never ever had a problem with any kind of impaction. I've seen viper geckos go after a cricket and miss or get it and then spit out the sand. You know, you could see their tongues working the sand out of their mouth, and they'll just spit the sand out. Frank, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sure they'd have to do that in the wild, so it's not like a learned behavior. It's like, okay, this is not a cricket. Let's get this out of here.
Exactly. But Frank, you made a great point that, you know, number one, keep the food dish or something with the minerals, but all of your other maintenance, your care has to be right on. And if you have issues where you don't have the right heat, they're probably going to lick more to try to get that vitamins and minerals compensation for. So
that's wild. And yeah, you have to keep that up. So speaking of heat, one of the myths that I kind of hate is that if you keep cold-blooded animals like reptiles, invertebrates, a lot of invertebrates, and you keep a heat source, like primarily a light. I don't think anybody uses hot rocks anymore. Right? Is that the case? Under tank heaters are fine, but hot rocks, no good. But if they have a heat source like a lamp that they'll overbask and basically cook themselves, that's a bad myth. I think that's a real dumb myth that keeps people from getting the proper heat and light to their animals.
I think you're right. I think people worry about that a little bit. Now, having said that, I think in probably every single one of these myths that we're going to bring up, there's exceptions.
Yeah. There's a reason it's a myth. Like there's a little bit of reality to it.
Yes. So obviously we had problems with heat rocks in the past, and that kind of exploded. And everybody, don't keep them over heat rocks. Cool. Now I think the hobby is past that. I don't even know if heat rocks are still sold in pet stores. Comment in the comments, folks, if you've seen pet stores sell heat rocks. I don't know if I have. But
Justin, look on Amazon, Justin, real quick.
There you go. But I get a lot of questions about, should it be top or should it be belly? Should they have a heat source on top or on the ground? I say it kind of really doesn't matter. I personally prefer it from the top if you can, but it's a lot harder to provide heat from the top down rather than, belly heat, because there's so many good products out there, heat mats and thermostats available that you can set up fairly quickly and fairly easily and safely.
Rock
What's that?
Zoom Ed sells rock heater, standard size rock heaters.
So Nanette's saying that Zoom Ed?
Amazon has a rock heater giant size, a standard size, and then Exoterra has a heat wave rock.
So their giant size is now referred to as Johnny Flamethrower.
Mini size rock heaters. Yeah, there's all kinds on here.
Just microwave your animal once a day. They'll be fine. That's going to give them all the heat they need.
What does a reptile say when it's kept in a cage with a giant heat rock?
Ow.
Woof.
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 Oh my God.
There's a heat reversible carpet. There's all kinds of stuff here on Amazon.
See, that's wild. I like the little strings or whatever, the cords. I like to use the cords for shelf type things.
Yeah,
you can kind of stick them to the bottom and they're good to go. That's what I have on Sheila. I need to put another one on Sheila, but it's being used right now. Yeah, I think there's a lot of options that work. I think you're right with the light. The lights can be a little bit harder to manage. I would combo. I don't keep anything that needs it now, but I would combo because you need light for most. I think talking to other guests, you need light for most animals. Like they still need a cycle where they're getting it at least indirectly. Maybe not necessarily UVB, but it wouldn't hurt. UVB wouldn't hurt them. It could only make things better. But like cresties, the discussion was about cresties and leopards. And Miso, I would say leopard geckos are an excellent beginner reptile. Absolutely. She had asked if they were still a beginner. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
A lot of geckos are great beginner pets. Well, yeah, I don't know about a lot, but I could see several geckos as beginner pets. But I think the light is a good thing to have in conjunction with the heat mat, so that you can, and you have your hot side and your cool side. That's the key to this myth, busting this myth, is to give them the space to get away from the heat, because they wouldn't just sit under the sun on a hot rock all day in the desert, right? They wouldn't just be like, this heat feels good, I'm just gonna, oh shit, I'm dead. Like,
Woof.
yeah, I messed up. I biffed on this one. What is this? Grumpy Little Moose found out a myth recently. You can keep 2 cresties in this deli. What? Who said that?
I'm going to come to that real quick, but I just want to point out real quick your point about the gradient and the animals being able to adjust. So, heat is a good thing, but if you have viper geckos in a 5-gallon and the heat mat takes up 99% of the enclosure, or you have a heat lamp on top and they can't get away from that heat lamp, that's way worse than not having one on at all. So your point about giving them room so that they can go in between, they will use the heat, and when their bodies tell them that they have enough, they'll move off of the heat and go somewhere else. I see it all the time.
Yeah, I have a little lamp. I have one example of a heat lamp right now. So this little, you can't really see it. Can you see it right here?
Yeah.
On that cord. So that's a little heat lamp on my shrimp tank. They don't necessarily need it, but they need light, and that's the one that I had. So I keep it on one side in a corner. It's a little like 5-gallon cube. So if it was a heat lamp on there, they would have nowhere to go. If it was an animal, a land animal in there, they would have nowhere to go. It would just be heat. So but this is a little lamp on one corner. It's about 3 inches away. So it's like ambient at best. The light is primarily for the algae to grow. But you'd have to be on deck with one of those like laser thermometers to see like, okay, here it's this, here it's this. It's been on an hour. Here's the temp here. Here's the temp there. But you can just use common sense if you have a bigger enclosure. And I think that's where they get into like a beardy needs a 100-gallon, because then they have that, because they want a really hot spot, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you want that really hot spot and then enough area for them to get away and have their water over on one side or whatever.
Excellent point. Excellent. Do you want to go back to that 2 crested geckos in the same cup by Grumpy?
Yeah.
Want to know a great myth that I recently found out the hard way? You can keep 2. So the myth is you can keep 2 crested geckos in this deli cup. It does say Petkeeping, so sorry if that's off top. No, and that's a great point. It's hard, So I was going to bring this up later, but I'm going to bring it up right now. And you've heard, people that have watched, Supreme Gecko, you, Josh, I say this over and over again. Find 3 people that you can ask questions about and use their experience. And if they won't answer you, then move on to somebody else. But, when you have something like this, gosh, I don't know if that's a myth or it's reality, or I don't know how to use this information. Ask people, ask other keepers, ask people that have experience, ask people that have gone through it and maybe done the wrong thing here or there, and get their experience and find out, what they feel about stuff like this. So if you have you can keep 2 crested geckos in a deli cup for a long, long time together, first, try to make sure that it makes sense to you. And if you have any questions at all, go to, a Josh or a Wally or somebody online, send it to a Facebook group, although sometimes you'll get just hammered with that. But find a couple of people that you can ask that question of and ask them.
Yeah. If you come to me, I will. Yeah. If you come to me, I will find you someone who knows. Or hopefully it's a question that I've heard because I lock it all up here. Or it's a question you can find on Animal Planet because I've watched, when Animal Planet was good. 30 years of discovering Animal Planet is locked up here right now. So if you want to know mating habits of manatees in southern Florida versus northern Florida, I got you. It's the same. It's exactly the same. First they do is they get hit by a boat, and that sets them off. Like that makes them really in the mood. So no, that's not true. That's a myth. That's a myth as well. Sandy had one real quick about L. lugubrious morning geckos changing color if you keep different types together. I know she has the high yellow ones. I'm going to be doing this actually soon because she has the high yellow ones and Russ has the regular, I guess, the standard issue. And I'm going to be keeping 2 and 2. So Sandy, what's the myth? I'm confused by your comments. So do they change or do they not?
I've never heard that they change. I had assumed that for everything that I know about them is that if you have a morph, the morph is the morph. If you have an A or B or D type, it's going to be a D type. Now, if it loses some of its markings, let's say the yellow stomach, it might over time lose some of that patterning. Let's say that you have it over sand. Let's say you have it over white sand. It might lose some of that white coloring. It might be trying to blend in, and it's going to lose some of that coloring. So, I don't know if it loses the genetics, because my belief is that each one of these locations is I don't want to say a different morph. It certainly isn't a different morph, but just a different color variety. There's different color varieties in just about anything. Birds from Illinois might look a little bit different than the same bird, from northern Wisconsin. And I don't know, cardinals might be more red in Illinois than in northern Wisconsin. So I don't think that northern Wisconsin, cardinals are going to start getting redder and redder. I've not heard that. So I'd like to see if somebody's gone through that process. I'd love to hear some more information on that.
Jedi's saying that they totally changed, so I want to know what that's about. So we'll do that another time. But I'll talk to Jedi about that when we talk about Bigfoot. We'll do that as a tangent. So I still have to reschedule that. So he got super busy that week. Summer's hard. Summer's hard for live streams. A lot of reschedules.
Yeah.
What was your next one? Or did we cover heat stuff enough? Are we good?
I think so.
I will say be careful with heat tape. Like I know everybody that uses the heat tape has a story, and you do, about them like malfunctioning and causing a fire or potential fire or melting a bunch of stuff. So just keep an eye on it. Make sure when you're doing your maintenance. I would recommend to just glance at it and make sure that it's still all good.
To tell you a funny story, I know the situation with the really bad heat tape that we went through about a year ago. But today I went down and I pushed in one of our Periodora Pictotubs, and it kind of hung a little bit, and I pulled it back out, and sure enough, the tape had come up a little bit. And I thought, well, I'll go grab the tape and maybe just tape down that spot, and walked out of the room, came back in, and decided to pull all of the tubs off and retape the whole thing, just so that I wasn't scraping on anything again and causing a problem. So, if you're going to be cautious with heat tape, be overcautious and make sure that you're doing everything the safe way.
And you're doing the one like the DIY one where you cut it off the roll and hook it up. And yeah. So that's the one I would say if you don't buy it prefab, even those can malfunction for sure. But if you're, unless you're a super pro, which I'm sure you are, but even you had that was only like last year or something, or 2 years ago.
Last year. About a year ago, yeah.
Yeah. So that's like you've been doing this for a few years.
Hundreds.
A couple months now. You've been keeping keeping geckos for a couple months now. Pretty good at it. Uh, yeah, I think just be careful and you'll be fine. Yeah, because fire, they'll probably die from fire. That'd be a hard heat source to get away from.
That would be a bad one.
It's a
Too
self-regulating.
much heat. It'd be
Little
like
too much.
almost worse than a heat rock.
Almost so close, so close. I wish I knew what the deal was with those because I feel like under tank heaters, it's the same premise.
It's not though. It's not though. Sandy mentioned that she said that about 20 years ago or so, she was using heat rocks. Sandy,
Yeah.
we all did. I think I jumped in right at the point where heat rocks were starting to be, oh, let's not use heat rocks. But they're different in that heat tape has a certain wattage. Like I use 6 watts.
Okay.
You can get higher, but 6 watts isn't a whole lot. And I firmly believe that if we ever did have a problem with that line of heat tape that crinkled up, I think we saw the worst of it because I use the small. I don't use the big, 6 or 8 or 10 inch, which gets a little bit warmer.
Okay.
Anyways, heat rocks literally are rocks inside the enclosure that the animals are sitting directly on, whereas heat tape is under the enclosure. The animals aren't really sitting on it. So you might have some substrate, which a lot of our tanks do. So you don't have that direct connection between the animals and the heat source. It's a little bit different.
Okay, I got you. So, okay, I got it. That's good. That makes sense.
Sandy's got a great point.
What's that?
She says we didn't use thermostats back then. Right, that was the big problem.
That's true.
And I hope everybody heard me when I said, in the beginning about heat and heat mats, use a thermostat, use a thermostat, use a thermostat.
Yeah, I think this is another thing, like talking about the old school stuff, is that a lot of that stuff back in the day was wrong, or at least well-intentioned, but wrong. And those practices carry over because there's still old people that talk about it. And there's young people who've just heard about it. And like, well, this old guy said it, so it must be good. Well, that old guy said it 15 years ago. So we've come so far. And every year there's advancements in the husbandry. So we have to really pay attention. But some of these are, I think the ones we've talked about so far will kill your animals if you follow them. So it's a big deal. I have so many from so many different sources. But whose turn? Is it my turn?
I think it's mine.
It's yours. It's yours.
Is it mine? Okay. We're going to go from killing your animals to the difference between surviving and thriving. Speaking of the old days, in the olden days when I was keeping geckos, leopard geckos, all that you need to do is give them calcium with D3. That's all you have to do. Do leopard geckos need UVB? No, calcium D3. That's all that they need. Because they're nocturnal. They're nocturnal. They don't come out when the sun is out. So they don't need all of the D3 or the UVB light and stuff. Don't worry about it. It's an overexpense. You're spending too much money. So luckily, do as I say, don't do as I do. Because I do have leopard geckos on racks, and I do have nice, good, high output lighting, but I doubt that it's UVB quality. But I'm slowly converting everything over as much as I possibly can. Anyways, so luckily in the last, I'll say 5, 6, 7, 8 years, the trend is now more toward, obviously, the care and making sure that these animals aren't just surviving, they're thriving, and giving the animals as much of what they get in nature, trying to do as much as we can in captivity. And that means, some of these animals that are crepuscular, they're not nocturnal. Leopard geckos aren't nocturnal. They like to be out during the dawn and just before nighttime in the evening, dawn and dusk, crepuscular. So they're getting some value from the UVB, from the sun. So the trend now is to give your animals UVB. And now it's a balancing act between, tropical or desert or what degree and how far. So you have to kind of balance some of that, but that's the trend now.
I don't think you can give. Is there? I don't know because I'm out of it, and I got out of it before UVB even became a thing. But out of reptiles really. But is there too much UVB? Like you can give too much calcium, but is there too much UVB?
There's other factors. So if you're giving UVB, you're probably giving other elements like UVA and UVD, other things. So if you put a UVB bulb like this close to an animal, you're giving it too much of the other stuff. For UVB, UVB is obviously for them to absorb calcium into their bodies and use it for their bones. And you really can't give them, from my understanding, you can't give them too much UVB, but there's other things that you have to consider there as well.
Okay. I'd like to put a pause real quick and note that we just got evidence of ghosts on my channel. So as Wally's door just opened up by itself. So clearly there's ghost activity in your house.
That would be the 65-pound dog that just walked in.
Now, is the dog's name Waffles?
No, God, no.
Zero.
Okay. Zero.
Yeah,
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
Zero. It's not our dog.
I'm sure
I prefer that it's ghosts.
Love that.
I prefer that it's ghosts. Yeah, the whistle, that was a good whistle.
Zero.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between thriving and surviving. And I think we're all leaning in that direction. And I think it's good to see breeders do it. I know for sure the one who started me thinking about it more was Ryan Marshall. I want to say it's Ryan. Is it Ryan?
Ryan McVeigh?
No, it's Marshall Arachnids.
Okay.
He is huge. He gives UVB and like timers on daylight for his tarantulas, which no one does. So and he's huge about it's a must-have for almost all of his spiders, I think, if not all. He has the timers where it gives them a daytime and a nighttime, and the transition in between, which is it's not really a transition, I guess. It just kind of clicks off, but they definitely have that. So to see that, and to me, I'm like, that's extreme. But then you talk to him, and it's crazy the way the passion that goes into it from some of the breeders. That's how I know I'm talking to somebody that I want to get behind and support, is to feel and hear their passion. It's amazing. So they don't really cut corners. They're not going to dumb it down for you to accept your cutting corners. They're gonna not accept that really, and I think you're on that list too. So like, I love that breeders are coming out of it, and it's not just like a lizard mill or a puppy mill or, it's a breeder facility. We have tubs. They're fine. They're all alive, and sure they are. But so are the prisoners in Stateville. So they're alive too. There's a big difference.
Yes,
and I think you're right. Like a lot of Cresties too. Cresties have that, they're hanging out on trees in the middle of the day, so they're getting UVB. It's not like they're in a cave or in a cranny or whatever. So they're sleeping somewhere where they're exposed to light.
We had Andrew and Sarah Gilpin on a couple of weeks ago, and if you remember, Nanette, we were talking about their facility and how they have heat and UVB and regular lights hooked up, and they'll go through a cycle, not for the seasons, but for the day, of turning on the heat.
Yep.
And turning on the lights at a certain time.
Yep.
And then a little bit later, an hour later, things go up a little bit. And then another hour later, things go up a little bit more, just like it does. Right? This temperature controlled and humidity controlled. And
who's this? This is a breeder?
Andrew and Sarah Gilpin of Living Art Creations.
That's awesome.
It is awesome, and I'm stealing their line. Let's make sure that our animals are thriving instead of just surviving. But
I feel like that makes it hard for me to buy from them, because like, I'm not going to provide that for that animal. Like, that animal's going to be like, man, this sucks. Like, I should have stayed where I was bred. I'd rather live in a deli cup there than this guy's 40-gallon breeder. That's going to be my go-to from now on, the 40-gallon breeder.
That's a good point.
Like that. No, that's amazing. I think that's great to promote that. And yes. I think that's going to show, that's definitely got to show in their offspring and the animals they're producing. It's just got to show so much in what they're doing, because isn't it, a thing in in a lot of our animals that you can boost their colors with the food, right? That's a lot of the reptiles. I know a lot of the inverts. That giving them the proper food boosts up their color a little bit, to where if they're being kept crappily, it's not going to be there.
Yeah, I think that you followed it up with a great point in that you can keep animals terribly, and the food coloration isn't going to mean anything. But if you're keeping your animals in a healthy manner, then all these pigmentations are going to have an effect on the animals. Now, I'm so anti pigments, it's unreal. My feeling is that, I saw this in the fish world where people were throwing all the pigments and artificial coloring in at their food, and these discs
Oh,
were
yeah.
like, you didn't even have to turn on a light. They were glowing red, without lights.
God, I love discus. I love discus.
They're like glowworms, except that they were discus. So, coming from the fish world, I was so anti pigments, but now, I'm not going to call out any names, but there's a lot of foods that have the pigments in for the crested geckos. And my thought is that why don't we just all have kind of a standard, level playing field instead of all these other things. Now you've got to ask, are you using pigments, or why is your red so red?
Well, there's that wasn't what I was talking about. I was just talking about proper diet.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of one of the things that gets crazy colors from things that off the top of my head, I can't think of it.
Dark frogs.
But different fruits and different vegetables. And I think I'm frozen again. Nope, there we go. We'll change that enclosure with dirt or bug active. That dark get toxins from the things they eat, but do they colors?
I think you're freezing up a little bit, Josh, but I don't know if anybody else.
Damn it, am I frozen again? I have a connection.
I can hear you now. I don't know if you can hear us.
I'm definitely connected. This is driving me crazy today.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can hear you. It's your video is frozen a little
bit.
Okay,
good. It's a little choppy. I don't know what the deal is. Everybody's in bed, so nobody's sharing the Wi-Fi right now. You were saying dart frogs. I think dart frogs just get their toxins from the things they eat in their environment. But yeah, Max Headroom. Is that what I was looking like? I'll take Max Headroom. That was a dope. He was awesome. Where's that guy now? What's he doing now that we have AI?
I'm sure commercials somewhere.
I would love to see commercials, right? An Old Spice commercial with him on it doing the "I'm your man should smell like." That brings me to other myths. So, you're talking about colors, and what are they doing that I'm not doing? So, beta fish. So, I was huge into beta fish, beta splendens for years, breeding them on a competitive level. So, I was there, right? I was in the pocket on beta fish. So, all the myths that go into that are kind of insane, and I suckered into a lot of them initially. It was about 20 years ago. And we weren't keeping them the way we are now to try to breed better fish. At least in my circle, we were keeping them kind of cranking them out, right? So I'm not proud of it, but we were doing it. But now, the big thing I see now with people that are, most of the fish you get are from Thailand, that area. They have breeders that are there that they literally have jars, just wall to wall, an acre of jars. And the guys just walk on them, on the tops of these jars, and they're dropping little pellets in every day to feed them. They walk over there with a bucket of food and they're just bloop, bloop, bloop. But they'll put up pictures of their fish. Some people, I'm not saying it's the guys from Thailand, but some people put pictures on eBay, Aquabid, all these websites. They put filters on the picture to make the colors look 10 times better than they are. Ooh. So you get a fish. Yeah, the fish you get is not what you paid for. Yeah, so which is super shady. We didn't have that when I was into it. We didn't really have that capability. You had the best camera you had and put it on eBay or put it wherever, or you took them to shows. So people were seeing your stuff in person for the most part. So that's filter phonies. Jedi's got it. I've seen it in isopods. I've seen people do it with isopods. And that was very frustrating to see, because it was I think it was, the light colored clowns that they have now.
Yeah.
So they're like a caramel color almost. Somebody put a blue filter on it, so it looked like they were like a blue, like a aqua blue, and with the yellow dots. And what got me is the yellow dots had a blue haze over them, and I was like, "The hell is going on?" Because you stop on those pictures and you're like, "What's happening here? What is this brand new thing that I've never seen before? What is this pink and blue leopard gecko or crested gecko that somebody should be selling for $500 that is only here for 150? What?"
Pink and blue.
Wally put a filter on his Cresty at a show, and I almost farted in my pants. It was bad news.
It was a natural filter.
It was a natural filter. It was literally a filter. I wish I took a picture. It's my biggest regret of seeing you at a show is not taking a picture of that stupid Cresty. It looked pink and blue. It did. It did.
I should have upped the price
No,
and
it
sold it
did
to you.
not.
I should have let you go. What I should have done is I should have sold it to you, let you walk around to another table and go, Supreme Gecko produced this. Is this mind blowing? This is so cool. And then just kind of followed you around and
With a camera.
And looked at the person vending, the table and gone, play along with this. And have them going, oh my God, I've never seen a crested gecko that look. How much did you? $400? Are you kidding me? What a steal!
I would try to trade. I think that gecko was only going for like $150, $180. It was under $200.
Pink and blue geckos.
And I was like, "What are you doing?" It was beautiful. It was beautiful in shed.
And it was in shed.
It was in shed, you guys. But it was like puce pink, like a deep pink, and like a powder blue down the back. And it was gorgeous. And I'm sure it still is, but it was a different kind of gorgeous now. I don't know how it got to that color just by shedding, but or under the shed, but it was really cool.
Because it was gray on top of a red gecko.
Yeah, right.
It was gray on top of red.
Yep. But if you've never seen one before, you don't know. You just don't know. I played that as long as I could, and then I had to break down and laugh.
You were not nice.
I laughed at you.
It wasn't. You did. And you know what? I took it because I should have known better. You could tell that it was like cloudy, and it wasn't comparable to the other ones. That the skin was not comparable. But I freaked out. That's how I do things. My brain goes to something and locks on it, and it goes to the stupid thing a lot of times, and I have to talk myself out of it. The myth that betas can't be kept together. They can.
Ooh.
They can, but you need a big ass planted tank. Well, here's the thing. When I used to work at PetSmart, we would have to change those little dumb cups, and we'd put them all. We would dump one into a 5-gallon bucket, fill the cup with fresh water, put the fish back in right away. Boom, boom, boom. Some people would get cups ready. It had that blue, like medicated water in there. It was like that tinted blue, which you don't really use anymore. But yeah. So I would take all of the male betas, dump them in one 5-gallon bucket, and then come back and scoop them out. Like boom, 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 boom. Just dump them, have my cups ready to go. But you'd get called away. You'd get called away by a customer in the middle of that. Never once had an issue. Very few flare-ups. Probably very stressful for the fish in retrospect. But I never had an attack. I never had anybody get wounded. Nothing. Not to say that you could do that long term, but like more than an hour. But I have recently seen 2 setups that were heavily planted tanks with a lot of like rocks and crannies and stuff for things to hide in. Lots of fish, like really gentle community fish, and 2 male betas. And I saw them kind of cross paths, I think, on the outskirt of their territory. And they each immediately turned around and went back to like the middle of their little pocket. So they were kept. This was a very advanced fish keeper that had 2 or 3 tanks like this. I only saw the 2 males in one because there's so many plants. It was like, it's my dream tank because you could just watch it and you'd just see different things every 5 seconds. You'd see fish that you hadn't seen an hour later. But I think you can. And you can definitely keep like what they call a sorority of females.
Yes.
But not if you're a dum-dum. If you're new, don't do that. If you're watching this and you're like, I want to get a bunch of females because they look great now. The females look they're beautiful.
And they're bigger and
yeah, I have 4 right here behind me. So in that like 30 gallons of water. And they're doing fine. They've each staked out their own little spot and they come together to eat and no problems.
So your bucket with all these males in it, what's the difference between that and somebody that will put the mirrors up in between their, they'll take off the hide so that the males can't see each other in these tank after tank after tank, and they'll take out the hides or they'll put mirrors in front so that the males flare up. And what's the difference between that and conditioning these males to get them, firing up, as opposed to putting them all in a 5-gallon bucket and, for a couple of minutes? There's probably no difference whatsoever.
Probably not, but I think they were overwhelmed with so many males because no one was ready to be like, look at me. No one's ready to do that and get jumped. So I didn't even see a flare when I had them in the bucket. And I would do that every week. But they were in the bucket, they were in the cups, so they're all piled up next to each other. So they could flare all they want in the cups, and they would. But in that bucket, they were like, oh, you're right here? No, I'll be over here just minding my own business with these 8 guys. The male beta ate 4 neon blue rasboras. What? I've never had a problem.
Expensive.
That's what he says.
Yeah. That's an expensive food.
Menagerie, that's wild. I'm not doubting you at all. I've never had a problem with that. I've heard people say that their betas were aggressive to other fish. I've never had that. I know it's probably beta. Yeah, I've never experienced that personally.
Yeah.
Especially not to like kill a fish. Wow.
The fish plumber is making a really, really good point here. By no means am I telling an inexperienced keeper to try it, but I have 5 females with lots of plants and dither fish. So that's, excuse me. One of my points later is about cohabitating animals, reptiles specifically. And I do it all the time, but I strongly suggest to people buying at a reptile show not to do it. Now, it sounds kind of contradicting. Thank you. It sounds contradicting, but the point is that I know what to look for. I know when an animal isn't eating, or maybe not necessarily getting picked on, but just getting bullied and pushed to the back of the tank, hiding more than it really should be, thus not eating like it should be. So your point about, you can do some things, you can get away with some things if you have a little bit of, more experience, but not for the inexperienced whatsoever.
Right. I think it's a big deal. There's so many myths about betas too, like the people that sell. This is the one I see that Frank was talking about keepers earlier, or big box fish stores or big box pet stores that push myths. And we were talking about the size of tank earlier. And I think the problem is that they'll have the tank. You'll see like the Exoterra, and it has a picture of a reptile on the thing that should not be kept in that size Exoterra, or at least not as an adult, like maybe as a juvenile. But they'll have that picture there, and it's like, well, of course you would buy a beardy for this 20 long, whatever setup this is, like reptile setup. Of course you would. It's on the box. And you hope you get the kid that works at PetSmart that knows. I'm picking up PetSmart. That's where I worked. I do think that the kids that work in the specialty department and adults, they know what they're talking about, and they will steer you away. Oh, Luke, I am your father. I haven't seen this guy in forever. Asking about your red goblin roaches.
Doing good. Breeding like crazy.
Okay.
That's what I said.
Oh, there you go. Man, that's running interference over here. What was I talking about? But you get betas. I think betas are the ones that people are like, oh yeah, no, you could keep them in this 1 gallon bowl on your shelf and it'll be fine. And it's like, kind of, but they need so much heat that they're not going to do that well. And they're not going to live as long as they should. Pet shop hermit crabs do have it rough. Yes, Frank, they do. they definitely do. And nobody knows enough about them at the stores to be able to suggest the right husbandry either. But if say you get a manager or a regular cashier to help you with fish, that person's not going to know. Like I've literally stepped in and told people the correct information on top of the PetSmart employee who then got pissed, and I had to tell them to their face, like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. This is going to be bad for the animal. You're trying to make that sale. I feel like for the managers, the sale is more important than the care. In most cases, I'm not. If you're a PetSmart manager, Tanner, right. I'm not talking about you, Tanner. Tanner's the assistant at his store. So I think that's his title now. But betas have that, they can live in a bowl. They get beat up by every other fish, or they attack every other fish you put them with. They're all kinds of crazy myths. You have myths about Oscars. The Oscars only eat like full-grown goldfish. But they're totally carnivores. But the beta ones are the ones that I think can be so detrimental to those animals, and they're near and dear to my heart. And I've committed beta crimes in the past, and try to spread better information now. So these guys have that heat pad underneath, so they have indirect heat on this water in the middle, so they can kind of self-regulate too.
Nice.
And when that's grown in, it'll be nice. It doesn't look like much, but this is a great little. I'm really proud of the water here because they've got a huge footprint, so that's good. Hermit crabs are very high maintenance, and their setup easily costs a few hundred. Most parents aren't willing to get the proper setup for their child. Not for hermit crabs, no. I wouldn't spend that. We had some when I was a kid that did really, really well. My dad made an acrylic tank about this size, actually. And they did really, really well. We had multiple molts. We had all kinds of... and they were kept pretty crappily compared to today's. They had a heat light, they had sand, they had a water thing, but otherwise it was AstroTurf. The whole bottom of it was just AstroTurf. So, and they had lived forever. I think when my folks got divorced, he took it. He took the tank with him. So I don't know how long they actually lived, but we probably ran out of shells before we ran out of crabs.
Are they kept differently today?
Okay.
I don't even know anything about them. Oh, I think Josh is frozen again.
Are they kept differently now?
Yeah, are they kept differently now?
Back? I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, the setups. Yeah. 50 years? What? No.
They can live 50 years? They're almost as old as us.
Shit.
Wow.
That's older than me. They can live. I hope to make it past. Yeah, Crab Central Station actually breeds them, which is insane. Like, that's an insane level to go to because they basically breed as plankton. They start their life basically as plankton, don't they? Their setup is wild, is truly wild. If you haven't seen Crab Central Station, go check it out. It's unreal. Their setup for hermit crabs.
Is that a website?
It's a YouTube channel, Crab Central Station. Okay. So definitely, if you're watching this and you're Crab Central Station, send people my way. But if you haven't checked it out, it's just cool to see. 15 to 35 years. Wow.
That's insane.
Wow.
I'm going to go there now and watch.
Okay, cool. I'll see you in a little bit. When we get back, we'll talk about hermit crab myths. Hermit crab myth is that they're easy. And not if you want them to thrive, they're not. They have some requirements that are, you have to dial it in really hard and make sure that you have a lot of parameters in place.
I'm going to jump right over to the vampire crab things, whatever they are.
The what?
The vampires?
Yeah. The vampire crabs are awesome. Yeah. Early on.
Yeah.
Back in the day when you could go to a show and get anything you wanted and have zero information about it, I got vampire crabs. And they didn't last. They didn't last very long. Unfortunately, they escaped my little setup, and they went out and dried up in the corner somewhere. Animals at Home is a channel? I've never seen that. Okay.
Very cool. I'm going to look those up.
What other myths do you have, Mr. Wally?
Oh, okay. I have a two-part myth.
Oh.
Large enclosures cause stress on geckos.
I hate this one. I hate it. It makes no sense.
And I heard the same person 5 minutes later say, small enclosures causes stress on geckos. So let's talk about the large enclosures. Large enclosures cause stress on animals. So I'm kind of buying that a little bit. So you'll hear a lot of times, I'm going to be very, very specific to crested geckos. Keep crested geckos in small enclosures because they can't find the food. That's the myth. That's the myth. So crested geckos in the wild are kept in an enclosure, well, a big enclosure, because they're in the wild.
What's the size? Hey, somebody Google the size of Madagascar for me.
How big is Madagascar? So crested gecko babies in the wild, they'll find their food. It doesn't matter where they have to find it, they're going to find their food. So if you have a crested gecko in a 6-quart or if you have it in a 55, it doesn't matter. Large enclosures cause stress. I will say that I keep my small crested geckos in small enclosures because it's not the food part, it's that small animals are afraid of what? They're afraid of big animals. So big animals scare the bejeebers out of them. Look at how do you spell bejeebers?
I'll figure that out.
Small crested geckos don't like to be out in the open in lots of territory. They'll find a little tiny area that they can, stick their whole body into, and they'll stay there until they have to go find food. So we use small enclosures because I think that bigger enclosures make them uncomfortable. It has nothing at all to do with finding food. Large enclosures for adult crested geckos is just a fabrication. I don't see any reason why, if you want to keep a single crested gecko in a 150-gallon enclosure, then keep a single crested gecko in a 150-gallon enclosure. Doesn't matter. So small enclosures cause stress. Well, keeping a big animal in just like we were talking about before, an adult bearded dragon in a 10-gallon tank, that's a lot of stress. So yes, you have to do your research. You have to have an appropriate size enclosure for your animals.
Definitely. I think my thought isn't so much stress for a young cresty as I want to be able to see how it's doing. Right. I'm not going to be able to see that in a 55 heavily planted. In a 55 set up for them, I'm not going to be able to see that. Yeah. So they're going to be hiding from me somewhere in that jungle that I will have set up for them. No.
Lynette said, do you blame them?
My wife and daughter are up there hiding from me right now. So, because I keep chasing my daughter, telling her I'm a vampire. And blood is human juice.
Oh, nice.
Just so you know, we decided today that blood is human juice. So, vampires drink human juice. I mean, it is.
Oh,
yeah. You squeeze an orange, you get orange juice. If you squeeze a human, you get blood. So, you got to squeeze them really hard. But
I tell you, your viewers learn so much listening to your shows. It's incredible.
Thank God I have knowledgeable guests because I am an idiot.
Snapple fact today.
Oh, I don't.
Babies aren't dishwasher safe. That's a Snapple fact.
Babies are dishwasher safe.
Oh, they're not. They're not dishwasher.
Oh, they're not.
Yeah, don't mess that up. Don't mess that up, Paul. You're going to get me in trouble. Yeah, I'm getting into the Ravenloft. What were we talking about? What was the myth? The size of the thing. Yeah, yes, I think you want to be able to keep an eye. Yeah, you want to see your animal. You don't want to point at the thing and be like, oh, yeah, there's a lizard in there. Good luck. Good luck finding it.
For small crested geckos, right? What are you looking for? Why do you want to watch them? What do you want to look for a small crested gecko?
I want to check on how they're doing. Like, do they look like they're getting enough food? Do they look like they're not dehydrated? Do they look like they're being cared for? So lizards communicate with each other by doing push-ups. I've seen that. So that's not a myth. That's a Snapple fact. That's wild that came to you.
Yeah, Crystal thought it was great.
I got a fortune cookie that says, who knows what the future holds? And I was like, it's taped up on my monitor at work because we got it at lunch. And I was like, you had one job, fortune cookie. You had one job.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Unreal.
Your reptiles love you.
Yeah, I think that's that's one of those things. We're finding out that animals are so much smarter than we assumed, or at least they exhibit intelligent traits, I guess. Because we anthropomorphize them a lot. We put human traits on our animals all the time. But I think they have whatever a reptile shows affection with. I think they can show affection for their owner or comfort, I guess, right?
So is that a myth that we're talking about right here? My crested gecko, I have one crested gecko, and my crested gecko loves to be held. I'll go into the enclosure, and he comes to me and right on my hand, and he just loves it when I pet his head. And just, my gecko knows me and always comes to me and just loves me holding him.
Huh.
Myth or fact or fiction?
I mean, my question would be, what is he getting out of that experience? Like, what is the Krusty getting out of it? So, like, I want those emerald tree skinks because Clint had them on his show, Clint's Reptiles, and they were like puppies. They were just trying to get out of the enclosure to get to him. They were like, pick me, and they wouldn't let him grab them to put them back. Like, they just wouldn't let him touch them, which that's not what they're into. They just want to climb around his body. But he has a lot of flies on him all the time. So, no, I'm kidding.
Are they flies or mites?
Probably both. Probably a little bit of both. I wonder, like, is it affection, or are they getting something out of it? Is there something like the warmth of your body, or who knows? I mean, they're bred in captivity. They don't know the wild, so they don't know that. They associate you with food. They associate you with care. Clearly, this one associates you with comfort. I want to say it's a comfort thing.
Obviously, this is a point that comes up at shows, just about every single show that we do. Mm-hmm. I have a crested gecko, and it comes out and it just loves being held. So it's hard because your point was, what does the animal get out of it? And I'm 100% believer in that if they're coming out, if they're allowing you to hold them, they're sitting on your hand, their intention is to either get warm on your hand or poop on your hand. Yeah, that's what mine do all the time. They want to come on my hand to poop on it.
Every time.
Every time someone holds me an animal, it dumps on me. Every time.
So I think that animals coming on your hand, they can be conditioned not to have that fear, number one. You've got to get over the fear of this big hand is coming in to grab me and pull me out of where I'm very comfortable right now. So once they're past that, then what are they getting out of that whole experience? Well, a lot of times I think it's probably because they're stimulated with the food that they're being fed.
I think Frank has a point that I want to touch on here. They're simply curious, the entity that gives you food. They're trying to find out where the food comes out of you. Like, they want to see where the Repashy is coming from, or the Pangea, right? That's your jam right now. Unfortunately, I think that's the truth. Luke says that his Burmese python and retics follow him around the house. So I'm a little concerned he's got these giant snakes just roaming around his house.
Yeah, it's not working.
Well, it could be a lady. Sorry, Luke. You could be just quoting Star Wars. Either way. I don't. Maybe they're following you around hoping a mouse falls out or a rat falls out of your pocket. Maybe they're not. Maybe they have some kind of affection. Like, they're finding out snakes are super smart. Alligators, super smart. They look dumb, super smart. Like, they watch you and find patterns to find, opportunities to escape. Or Josh Alder was on, and he has Cuban crocodiles.
Yes.
And they're savages. And they watch him, and he says they watch him looking for him to take advantage of his, like, routine.
Ooh.
So they watch his routine like a prisoner, and he said they'll come at him, like charge him across the room if they can to attack him. So if one gets out, like, he knows. Yeah, they're mean and they're fast. They're the ones that, like, run up on all fours. So that's the one animal that gives me nightmares, like literal nightmares. So I would pee my pants real hard. Yeah, that would be no good. What is another one? I'm thinking of so many. There was a horse one that I had that I thought this was a myth, and it's not. I did research because I was like, you're stupid. This isn't true. Because I tell everybody not to bother possums. So this is a possum horse myth that I busted. So I reverse busted it. I verified it. So the myth is that if there's a possum in your barn and it somehow contaminates your horse feed with its urine, that it can kill your horse. So it's half true. So this is half true. I thought it was total BS because I would tell people all the time, like, leave possums alone. It's like the best thing you could have in your yard. They're immune to rabies. They eat all the pest animals that you could possibly find in your yard. If you happen to leave a hot dog out because it landed in the sandbox, which I did last night, there's no more hot dog there tonight. I had two choices. I said I could leave it out.
You carried that hot dog for yourself later. Doggone it.
I said I have two choices. I give it to my mother-in-law, hope for the best, or leave it for the possum. The only problem I have with the possum is he poops in all over the yard, kind of. But anyway, the possum will, the urine will cause your horse to like get paralyzed. Like it causes them to have like massive organ failure and get paralyzed. It's crazy. So, yeah, it's nuts. And yes, I've been bitten by a horsefly, and I hate horseflies. I murder them every chance I get. They hurt so bad.
Yep.
One of my greatest achievements in life is one landed on my mom's ponytail, and it was like the size of a quarter. It was this big. And I said, Mom, hold still. I was behind her. And my mom knows better. She froze. She absolutely froze. And I clapped it. I clapped it and murdered it. And all I hit was her. It never caused her any discomfort whatsoever.
Nice.
She was like, what was that about? And I pointed to it floating behind her. I'm like, that's what that was about. They're the worst. They're the worst.
Yes.
I'm hoping that Luke's not going to tell me that they inject you with something, like some kind of babies or something. That would be horrifying.
Your story with the hot dog and the play area, the sand and everything, and the next morning it was gone because the possum ate it. For some reason,
I assume it was the possum because he lives in my garage.
It had to be a possum. So. It had to be. I'm picturing.
Well, we have raccoons too, but
I'm going to say possum. So I'm envisioning a Parks and Recreation segment with Chris Pratt burying a hot dog for some reason, and a possum, and him getting all mad, and them building a whole episode on this possum eating the hot dog.
Like the side story would be Chris Pratt in battle or whatever, in a battle of wits with this possum. Yeah,
eventually,
I can see
he's got to take the possum down.
Yeah, I'm a super fanboy of Chris Pratt, so that's cool that inspired that story. I could see that too. Andy having a total battle with that. Oh my God, I gotta watch that show again. So good. If you ever have like 40 minutes to spare, check out their outtakes. And there's some of the best outtakes I've ever seen.
Or maybe not. It's a little blue. There's a couple that are way out there. Blue. Yes.
They're a little blue. I think my audience is a little blue though, so I think you'll be all right.
True.
A Dobson fly. Is that one with the crazy wings on the back? Like, do they come out of a Helgramite? Is that the ones?
Nanette's looking them up.
I want to know what it is.
I think it's that big, like they're long and they look like they have fangs on the front, but it's not. It's just horns. Menagerie, you can have your opinions too. That's fine.
That's right.
He's better than Chris Evans, even though Chris Evans has those magical, dreamy shoulders.
The best Chris is Chris. The best Chris is Chris Pine from Star Trek.
Which one's Chris Pine? And are you teasing me?
No, I'm not. That's not a tease. I'm a fanboy of Chris Pine in Star Trek. What does it look like?
Okay.
Did you find it?
I know this. Is it the one
Frank
I'm talking
says,
about?
Nanette, don't search it.
Yeah, he tried to stop you, Nanette, so.
Yeah.
It was too late.
Fair warning.
Is Chris Pine is the young Kirk? Is that it?
Yes, he is.
From the reboot? Okay.
The 3, yeah.
The reboot sucked. The reboot sucked, by the way. That's not a myth.
The series or the 3 movies?
The movies.
You're terrible. They're my
They
favorite.
tried to be Star Wars. If they would have made them and
They
just
did.
titled them Star Wars, it would have been a better prequel trilogy to
They're
Star
a
Wars.
better Star Wars than Star Wars.
They were. They definitely were. When the Sulu kid, Harold, pulled out the lightsaber, I was mad as hell. The folding rapier or whatever it was.
Yes.
Because I was thinking it before he did that, and then he did it, and I was like, come on now. This is Star Wars. Just knock it off. It's supposed to be the thinking man sci-fi, not the murder pony sci-fi.
Here you go.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
Murder
That's a
Hornet
monster.
Yuck.
Oh, Luke. Is that Luke Gazellis? Is Luke I Am Your Father? Are you Luke Gazellis? Yeah, I hope the Murder Hornet doesn't make it up here either.
503. We saw D&D a week ago, I think. And it was a good movie. I think it could have been better. Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, yeah. It
Was
all right.
with Chris Pine. It was.
Yeah,
I thought it was
Chris
pretty
Pine.
good. Yeah.
I want to see. I still haven't seen it, and I'm a huge D&D guy, so that's not a myth. No Luke Gilcelis? Luke Gazellis. Oh, Andrew's here. Andrew
Hey,
made a rare
Andrew.
appearance. Oh, that's a blue tongue on Sandy's picture. Okay. I'm trying to think of other myths that I knew of that are legit pet myths.
Well, you think of one. I'm going to throw one out if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Tongue feeding is showing extra love to your animals. So if you really, really, really love your animals, you should tongue feed them. So obviously I wrote some of these down, and I know people feel that their animals, care about them and love them because you can hold them. Obviously, I wrote this one down knowing that people tongue feed for all the right intentions. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't tongue feed them, but be aware that if you're tongue feeding, that your animals could get used to that pattern. And if you go on vacation, or if you're, for whatever reason, not able to tend to your animals for a week or two and need somebody else to help you, you probably don't want them tongue feeding your animals, and your animals might not know enough to eat the regular way.
That's true. And unless you totally train your friend who's helping you to do it. I've heard other stories too, like they've had issues with bigger tegus. I know people have had problems with tegus firsthand, but I don't know about, I imagine monitors might have a thing too, because they come running out when they see those tongs come out. They come flying out, and they could get a little overzealous. You could be a little too close, and they hit you instead. And I don't know if you ever Googled the skull of a tegu, but you don't ever want to get that close to your skin. Not ever.
I'm
Luke
not
is
Googling
asking.
it.
No, don't. They're teeth. It's all teeth. It makes the alligator skull look tame. It's just teeth. And you don't think about it because you have this like cool lizard, and it's really neat. And what's her name? Oh my God, I can't think of anybody today. She was a guest, Dionysus Tegu. I can't think of her real name right now. She came on with her tegu, and she doesn't trust it. She says, I'm always on alert when he's out because any bite from him is a hospital visit.
Wow.
Oh my God.
And I know a lot of people tongue feed or I don't know, hook feed. I don't know what it's called. They're snakes, and I know that that's fine. But
they just
I think
target train a tegu if you want to feed them with the tongue.
Yeah, target train is good. Yeah.
In 503, let us know, do you feel that it's okay to tongue feed your African fat tail, or is it kind of a problem that that's the only way that animal is going to eat now?
Yeah, I would worry that it's a thing. I would use it. I don't know. I don't have tegus or monitors. I'm never going to. My wife would. I'd have to live in the garage. Are sea monkeys brine shrimp? Is that a myth or a question? They are brine shrimp.
Yeah.
Well, they're a lab-grown brine shrimp. So is that answer? I don't know if that answers the question. They're not found in nature. You won't find sea monkeys in nature. They are like a branded, trademarked organism.
Yeah.
So, because they were developed in labs, and then somebody decided to sell them as the cool little. That guy made a fortune.
A fortune.
A good gillionaire.
What a
that
great
guy
idea.
on-
We need to come
on
up with
Prime
something
Show.
like that. What was that big beetle that we just saw? We should get eggs and harvest them and sell
No,
them
thank
as
you.
dragons. Train your dragon.
Train your dragon and turn into Hercules.
And we could
How would
we
straight
could
up have Hercules beetles if they didn't live like a year after they became Hercules beetles?
So I'm running through the comments here, and I see Nanette's comment to Frank, and I swear to gosh, I didn't read it as yuck, Frank.
Oh,
Oh,
Wow.
well,
I
Yeah.
said, yeah.
Aren't we in a mood?
He told me to look up something else, and it was gross.
Oh, okay. Sure.
I said, yuck.
that is kind of why I had the worms, Grumpy. So Grumpy has been around. All right, you heard about the tapeworm story. You don't tongue feed anything but the monitors or the tokays. Somebody was saying tokays hit the tongs too hard and it could hurt their mouths. So
Good point.
I think tokays,
Good
it'd be
point.
fun to watch tokays. I think it would be just fun to watch tokays hunt because they're savages.
Yes.
From a distance.
From a distance.
A Darwin Goliath centipede in the near future. Yeah, there's so many. I mean, there's so many myths in the hobbies. Like we could go on for months and months and months. Because
I'm
there's
looking
so
at a
much
couple of-
that's changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a couple of mine, just real quick feeders.
Yeah.
You should always feed your animals a feeder insect the length of the width of their eyes. And I tell people that's not true 100% of the time. A lot of times we're feeding feeders that are much longer than the width of the animal's eyes. Like for mealworms, we'll feed a mealworm maybe 1.5 to 2 times as long as the width of the gecko's eyes. Gargoyle geckos are just notorious for taking the biggest dubias that they possibly can get in their mouth. Much, much, much bigger than you would expect them to eat.
Well, I mean, they break it down. They break it down as they crush it and move it around in their mouth, and it's not like they're swallowing it completely whole. I mean, it's whole, but it's crushed, so it's different. And I get it. Yeah. Like my newts, they eat worms that are like half the length of their body. So it's that's not going to be fitting between their eyes. Do oranges make roaches breed faster?
It does. It does.
I thought that was chocolate covered strawberries. I thought that was the one that got good results.
We go back and forth.
Or oysters.
Yeah. So the issue with oranges though is that it does stimulate their breeding. It gives them more acids and things that will stimulate their breeding and help them breed.
Okay.
But the problem is that whatever you're putting into your dubias, it's going to go to your animals as well. And some of the, and I can't remember exactly what it is, but I've got it saved on a document somewhere. But I don't know if it's the citric acid or something else about the oranges that you really don't want going to your geckos in the amount that I'm going to feed just oranges or oranges significantly to my dubias. You can give them some oranges once in a while, but you just don't want it to be a staple of their food.
What is this I'm hearing about people feeding crickets from like PetSmart or Petco or Big Box, and they're getting some kind of parasite? They're lizards or whatever, getting mites or parasite or something. I've been hearing that the last year, but nobody has had any verification for me. I didn't know if that was a myth or not. That's why I want to bring it up here. But
it's hard to talk on that because that's been a myth forever. Now we buy crickets from a couple of other different places, but we're buying by the thousands and thousands, and we bring them in. We condition them for at least a day, sometimes 2, and then we'll feed them off. But by the time they've been here, they've gone through carrots or zucchini or pumpkin or something else that they're eating here, and a grain, and my thought is that they're pushing whatever they have, if they have anything, through their bodies, so there's no impact to the geckos.
Okay. Because I had heard, and I was like, I don't know. That sounds like possible, but the way that they work, but all these things should be bred in a captive environment that wouldn't really be exposed to these things. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
I don't know. Like the way the life cycles of most parasites works is it has to go through a couple organisms usually to make it real. Yeah, there's just too many. There's just so many myths and so many bad old keeping. A lot of these stem from like bad old keeping methods mixed with overreaction to how to fix it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like they just went, whoa. Yes. And now we got to kind of not meet in the middle, but adjust. And we're still learning. There's things we do right now that are going to be myths later. So,
I'm going to throw another controversial one out there. I'm kind of like probably not making many friends here, but so I see all the time.
You don't have any anyway.
Yeah, I'm not going to lose any.
Welcome to the show. That's what we do here.
Reality.
So I see on Facebook a lot. I went to Pet Mart or PetSmart or Pet World or whatever. It doesn't matter what pet store. And I saw these leopard geckos, and they were so terribly kept. And I talked to the manager, and they wouldn't change anything. So I decided to rescue them and bring all the leopard geckos home. So I'm doing a good service for these leopard geckos by rescuing them from a pet store.
Yeah, this one's tough.
Yeah, this is very tough. And I know that people's hearts are always in the right place for this. My feeling, and I know this is controversial, but my feeling is never, ever buy sick animals or malnourished animals. Don't rescue animals from pet stores. And that's my belief 100%. And the reason is that all that you're doing is you're giving the pet store substance to go out and buy more animals and do exactly the wrong thing again. We've hit a couple. It's so tough. It is tough to see animals like that. But what you're doing is instilling that practice in a pet store to get them to do the same exact thing that they've always done. We've had a couple of instances where we've seen poorly kept animals. So what I try to do is go just the opposite way, and I'll go, you want to make more money? I'll ask to see the manager. I've got some concerns about the animals. I just like to talk to the manager, and I'll talk to the manager. You want to make more money? You make more money by having these animals look healthy. How long have these animals been sitting here? I bet you for quite a while, right? Well, about a month or so. You want to sell them quicker and make more money and get a better churn of inventory. You keep these animals better by doing a couple of little teeny tiny things better, and you're going to sell them quicker, and you're going to make more money. And then it's like, oh, okay, go ahead and tell me how I can do that. So I feel like instead of rescuing the animals, we should be trying to educate as much as we possibly can store owners like that.
That's good. I think that's better served. Hopefully you have a manager that listens to you. Or takes it on board a little bit. That's such a tough one because I think that's the way they get customers like that. You are incentivizing them to keep shitty animals. Like you're making it worth their while to keep their animals shittily. So
they aren't learning anything.
No, they're not. They're learning that they can do that bare minimum and still make whatever it is, whatever overpriced amount they're charging for that animal because for what you're paying for what you're getting, you're paying way too much. But it's the same trick that they use to get people to work for them. So the people that work in like the fish and animal departments at these stores love the animals. It's the same reason people are vet techs or veterinarians. Like you're not getting paid as much as you would doing another job, but you love what you do. You love doing it. So they kind of have you roped in. You want to do your job, so they're paying you less, or they can get away with paying you less, right?
Yeah.
I will say some of the big box stores are more competitive in their pay these days. But that's how they got us, like that's how they got me working for all the big box stores. I wanted to be. And that was back in the day when we got in wild stuff at the stores, like stuff you can't even get in the country anymore. So it was the Wild West back then. Oh, again, we had animals just like they had at the shows. We had no idea what we were talking about. what we had, how to really care for it. We had Sicilians, right? Those eel-looking amphibians.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Wow.
We had those. We could get them in anytime we wanted. We had Suriname toads, Peepa frogs. No idea how to keep those. People always were like, they would come up to you 100 times a day. Hey, that thing is dead. Nah, it's not.
It's not.
No, it's dead. And they'd be mad at you, and you'd go in there and touch it, and it would freak out, and you'd be like, okay, see, I told you. If you watch it, you can see it breathing. Literally, you can see it happen. We didn't know. We just knew that it was fun to feed the Peepa frogs, but we were keeping them totally poorly. That was back in the day. We had to kind of wing it on a lot of stuff. So we couldn't give people the right information. If they asked us, we'd be like, it's a frog, man. Enjoy. Clearly, it's fully aquatic. Have fun.
And when you learn, come back and tell us.
Yeah, because we're going to have them as soon as you buy them. We're going to order more. So, But, we did the best we could, but it wasn't great. And even then, if you got it, you weren't keeping it great because you didn't know. Like, maybe you were the one that figured it out, and that would be great. But in my town, you're not that one. I don't think there's anybody in my town figuring it out. Not even me. Like, I get the information from you guys, from my audience, from my guests, from my friends. That's who I get the information from. There's so many we could go on and on and on. And we've done our time. So do you have any more closers? Anything else you think that's good to throw out there?
I've got a bunch, but I'm kind of sensing that Slim Jim. I'm getting kind of an odor over here, so I'm good. Josh, I'm
give
good.
it about a half hour. It's percolating right now. Just give it. I had 2 bites and I stopped. It's like eating a stick of chili, basically, is what it is. It's not good. It's dry. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, for real. Maybe a trucker.
That should be the label. Stick o chili.
Sonic chili. But I do it for you guys. That's for you guys. I've turned down mildly lucrative sponsorship deals because they wanted me to stop doing the taste testing stuff on the air.
We'll pay you not to eat stuff.
Yeah, I'm like, that's kind of the thing. Like, that's kind of my thing, or one of my things. So I can't. Yeah, that's my bit, right? That's one of my bits. What's on your shirt? What is this, rainbow newts? It looks like a newt. Rainbow mealworms. Okay,
sure.
It's not a newt. The top half is a newt.
In this week.
We have worms coming in? Cool.
Yeah, I just got an email a little while ago.
Hi, Angie.
As you can see, guys, you're totally late, Angie. You're still a little bit earlier than I was last week to my own show, but that was the worst. That was one of my worst moments because my days off were all screwed up, and so I was screwed up. Like today, I had to set an alarm. Cassandra Pope just showed up. All right. Wally, are the Blackhawks going to put together a good team this season?
We hope so.
No, they're not. They're not. They're not going to be good for like 3 or 4 years. So, number 1 pick, baby, but it's going to take 3 years.
So you got to grow a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's fair.
They need to percolate a little bit, just like your Slim Jim.
Hopefully you get better results.
I hope so. So they're going to stink quicker than your Slim Jim is. Well,
okay,
anyways.
Enough.
Sorry, Nanette.
That's another myth.
Nanette, I know you asked if it was okay if you could come on every time Wally asked. I'll tell you, you don't have to. Don't feel obligated. I love having you. I love having you. All right. Good. You
I
know
get
what
to
you're in
spend
for.
time with him then too.
This is like the 32nd time Wally's been on the show. So.
Yeah, exactly. Myth. I enjoy this.
Myth.
Show. I'm just kidding.
Myth. Jim is slim. That's the best myth.
Oh man,
Jim
they're
is
just
slim.
hammering you with the Blackhawks.
Is this not? Oh, there it is. Okay.
Somebody said
Ice or playing?
That's a myth.
That sounds like
funny.
a wizard. That's like a wizard's name. That's not a person.
That's probably
That's
a
Harry
reference
Potter.
to Steve Yzerman, the Detroit Red Wings GM.
That's like-
That is not nice.
That's a Harry Potter character that
Is
their
it really?
specialty is summoning swarms. No, I'm just making it up. They summon swarms of insects. That's their specialty. I'm going to call it right there. But yeah, thank you both for coming on and talking about some of these myths. I feel like I could do 10 episodes just on this. Next week, if anybody could tune in, I have many treats for you. I will say, while you're here, Wally, I don't normally pimp next week's episode with this week's guest on still, but so we're coming on next week. We are going to have Russ Wilson on. Russ and I are going to talk about the creatures from the Star Wars universe that we have successfully kept and bred and raised. So we're going to talk about that. We are, thanks to Wally, you guys, it's going to be a special treat with costumes and characters. And yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So Russ, as a non-spoiler, Russ is going to wear his full Obi-Wan Kenobi costume.
That's
like
right.
Movie quality. Like, it's amazing, this suit. I don't know what he paid for it, but it's amazing. And I got my own. I did not pay anywhere near what Russ did, and you'll be able to see that. But yeah, I will have a costume as well. So there will be sound effects. I did not have a lightsaber. Yeah, I got a Jedi suit with a fur stole, and the sunglasses. Oh no, I'm kidding.
I can ship that to you if you'd like it.
Oh, you have a week. I mean, it's not that far. We could. No,
That's
right.
right.
I have an idea. You'll see. I won't be able to see comments very well, so hopefully somebody can help me out with that, maybe. But that's the only concern I have for this episode, is I won't be able to see anything. So
you want me dressed as Spock or Kirk? Because I look so much like Chris Pine. People tell me I look like Chris Pine, so I should probably come.
Myth. Guys, here we go. Wait, don't say anything else about who you could be on there. That is a myth. That's not even a myth. That's like just a straight no. Wally, or audience, when you see Wally, what Star Trek character comes to mind? You gotta give you a count of 5. Everybody, it's like 6 letters. Come on, guys, you can do this.
Well, it's got to be that I have to be a Tribble, right? Because I'm trouble.
You are trouble.
Yeah.
You are trouble, and you breed stuff like they're tribbles. So, Scotty, Reed nailed it. We're not going back on Skipper from the island.
Hi, Captain.
Yeah,
I'm giving it all she's got.
It's 100% Scotty. Like, you have the beard, you have the whole deal.
Gilligan.
Well, she was saying Skipper from Hiking and Island, but I think Hiking and was autocorrect. Yeah, we got to do an episode of Skipper and Gilligan, Wally. We have to do that.
Good one.
Oh,
your hat might come off.
Almost did.
It's come off on my show before, unintentionally.
Has
It was pretty great. Yeah.
You took your hat off on the show?
Not on purpose. He was trying to take his shirt off, and it popped off.
Why were you taking your shirt off on a live show?
Oh yeah, you'll have to just
my show.
watch and see.
It's my show, Nanette.
That's the one that you have to pay for, though.
It's behind a paywall. It's like 2 appearances ago for you, I think. So last one was the funniest, but the hat thing, I was like, "It's happening! This is happening!" And then I was like, "Oh, it's not that bad. It's not that big a deal." I thought you had a big tumor or something. That's what. If you were watching this and you have a head tumor, it's not a big deal. Just
It's okay. We still love you.
We still love you, little buddy.
You could put a smiley face on it, like a tattoo. That would be. Never mind. All right, we're gonna stop talking about head.
I'm gonna take off my hat and I'm gonna have a Blackhawks emblem right on top.
A tattoo right on your forehead.
That's a good look. That's a good look for you.
That would be a good look.
I think so.
Yeah, so next week, me and Russ, we're going to talk about Star Wars a lot. It's going to get nerdy, guys. So bring your nerd hats, your Star Wars nerd hats. This is good Star Wars, okay? This is going to be good Star Wars. We are also, what are we doing? Wally has a buy me a coffee thing. I have a Patreon. We're going to be giving our money to a charity that is providing healthcare to our Virgin Island neighbors. So I didn't know that our territories didn't qualify for Obamacare. Like, they're not included in that. So they don't have the benefits of being able to have cheaper healthcare that could cover them. So it's mostly out of pocket. So we're trying to, one of our ex-patrons quit being a patron because his money was needed elsewhere for this charity that he's on the board of. So we're going to save our patron money for 3 months, all of it. Well, it's not coming out to cover my other 2 little patrons, so all of it but $15 a month, and we're going to give it to this charity after 3 months, and we might keep doing that. So it's not even going to the show because it kind of is self-supporting now. So we're going to do that. So it's for something better than this show, okay, if that's possible.
Good calls.
So I think it's good to support Americans that aren't technically considered Americans. I don't understand that system, but yeah, I think it's good. If let's see, what else am I doing here? Go check out Rainbow Mealworms. Check out Supreme Gecko for your gecko and isopod needs. But you're dialing back the isopods, right?
What's that?
You're dialing back on the isopods, aren't you?
A little bit. We've dialed back to the ones that we're mostly selling and the ones that I really want to keep. The others are we sold at shows, the last 2 shows. Yeah.
As long as you're keeping Hoffs, I think you should be like the
Yep.
Midwest Hoff dealer.
Can't ship them.
You can't ship them?
No, not without a permit, and they don't have permits for the Hoffman Segai
Well,
or
that's
any
fine.
of the
You
giant
don't know.
Spanish. Yeah.
That's weird. It's
Yeah.
weird. I appreciate your legalities. I appreciate you. Not many breeders are down for the legalities like that.
If you don't mind, I would
Yeah.
like to mention we are going to have Carlos from Apis on a live show. I don't know if it's going to be in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but I collected a bunch of questions concerning the permits and legalities of keeping isopods and shipping them out. And I think I had over 50 questions, and I packaged them up and sent them to Carlos. If you don't know Carlos, Carlos is kind of our connection to all of the legalities. And he's going to, he's agreed to be on a live show and answer those questions for everybody. So
That's awesome.
I kind of think it's a big deal, and I really am excited that he'll be coming on and giving some very specific answers of why can't I, or why do they get to and I can't, kind of questions. So I'm really excited about this.
It'll help people understand.
It will. I think it really will.
That is exciting. That is exciting. So I need some new blood on my Hoffs. It's been 3 years since I got mine from you, and they're doing great, but I want some new blood. They stayed slow for me, so that's good. No, that's good. I'll post the link, or feel free to post all those links in IsoBuddies on Facebook. So I saw you doing something like that, and I was excited for it. So I'll get the night off and show up in the audience.
Thank you.
That's a big one. Like I think that's a big deal to a lot of people. So that's all I got, guys. If that's all you have to pimp, like that's all I have to pimp. We've both got great audiences because it's like 50-50 tonight, I think. But yeah, guys, if you like this show, like and share. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. You've been here an hour and a half or more.
I should like.
So
You should like.
I did. I did it. I never like on yours, but I did. First thing I did was hit the like button. I always forget it.
Do you hit the dislike?
No,
Okay.
I forgot it.
I'll tell you
never
now, I don't hit a like button until the video's over because I might not.
That's
I
right.
might not like it.
Well, maybe I'll take mine off then. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, we talked about farts too much, Wally. I told you. And that's like unsubscribe. What is this?
Block.
I'm out.
I'm going down to
Oh.
408 tonight. I plan to be at NARBC in July. Are you going
We're going Saturday. Yep.
as guests? Yeah,
as guests, yep.
Okay. Well, guests. Yeah, okay. I don't know why I said guests. I'm in show mode right now. If anybody's going to NARBC, let's post it up on IsoBuddies and Facebook, and we could do meetups. So I would love to sit down and eat something with people and share a meal instead of being completely distracted.
Normal
so
food.
Yeah. What's normal food? Wait, what do you mean? Yeah, not Slim Jims.
Not
I don't want to
the
sit down and
weird
eat a
stuff
Slim
you're
Jim.
doing.
No. This would be like a hamburger.
Let's bring Slim Jims and a tub of flaxseed, something to
That
dip
is
them in.
not
Yeah.
funny anymore, okay? You were not in good shape. I almost
We won't make you
killed
eat them. We'll
That
just
was
throw them at
bad.
you, Wally. We'll just
See,
throw them
so
at you.
the
as you
problem
walk in.
is So here's the problem. Oh my gosh, I'm getting sick and I can't breathe. And then it goes, oh, it has flaxseed in it. Ah.
Don't tick me off, but no, I'm just kidding.
She called the insurance company right away. Hey, I'm gonna need to up that. We need to up that coverage real high,
Like real
right
fast.
like right now.
I want to
Don't
double
ask
down.
Why? Because this dummy won't buy an EpiPen. I need more. I need more payout.
Don't get the EpiPen because
I told him. Thanks for having us on. This has been a blast.
Thanks for coming on again on such short notice. So we'll see you next week. We'll see you next week in the audience, hopefully.
Hey, I subscribed.
I love it. Thank you.
I
So that's
wasn't there
410.
either.
That's 410.
So now I'm there.
Awesome. Well, we'll see you soon. And thanks for coming on. Thanks, everybody, for watching. I'm going to hit end, and then we can sit here.